This episode of the Bari Chronicles is proudly brought to you by Bariatric Support Australia.
Hi everybody, I'm Tash.
And I'm Damo.
So excited to bring you this week's episode of the Bari Chronicles.
Tash, this week I have a really special guest. You.
Really? Yes, I'm so special.
No, not really, guys.
Just ordinary. Very ordinary.
Very ordinary.
But we have had bariatric surgery a long time ago now.
Yeah. I'm coming up to 11 years.
Yeah, that's crazy. This week, we thought that we would talk about life post-bariatric surgery, the long-term view. The long-term view. I love, and one of the key passions for me over the last 7 years, I guess. It's nearly 7 years since I had my gastric bypass.
It's amazing.
I love following people that are, in that valley of decision, in that deciding phase about what they're going to do to, get back the life that they're wanting to have, to address the health issues that they've got going on. And when they decide to go down the path of surgery, I'm so inspired and I love watching those journeys. I think it's amazing. I also absolutely love watching people living their best lives long after surgery. And I think that it is such a testament to the fact that while we have some amazing treatments in the bariatric sphere, for me and for you, the best choice by far was having bariatric metabolic surgery.
Yeah, definitely.
It just was.
One of the things that I really love is since we started the Mondays when we do Beyond the Scales and we share stories of people that are just living their best life. And that's become one of my favourite days.
I think it's my favourite.
There was one that we shared, it was last week, and this person had gone skydiving. And the look on their face in the pictures and, it was just like, wow, that is so cool. Someone that would have been unable to do that, and now they're out there skydiving. That is just so incredible.
It is incredible. Recently we've both shared about our different complications that we've had. And these are just things that can happen post-bariatric surgery. If you want accurate information about the rate of complications, then you need to go to the BSR or the Bariatric Surgery Registry. If you're in Australia and New Zealand, they keep fantastic records about all of that kind of thing. And of course, when somebody is having some issues or complications, they will likely have appointments. They'll talk about it. They might talk about it on social media. But when we're just going along, having our life, and things are just awesome, a lot of the time we don't really talk about that. So it can seem as though bariatric surgery seems to have a lot of complications associated with it. But the truth is, and the facts are, that it's still a fantastic way and very safe way for people to be able to experience the health benefits that they're wanting to have. Now, that brings me to what I was really wanting to talk about, because I have been sharing a little bit more about the complications that I've had. And you, Damo, you know this about me.
Yeah.
I really don't like to talk about them.
Yeah.
And I know people think that I do, or people think that I share a lot about those things, but I actually don't.
No, and I think sometimes there is a lot of misconception because we get to know people through a lens of what they're sharing about their life, but it's really the highlights. And I think it's true for most people that are on the internet. You might have some wow moments that get shared, but there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that leads up to that wow moment and a lot that happens after.
Yeah, and that is definitely true. I think for me, when I decided that I was going to document the bariatric side of my life on the internet, I made some really clear decisions that I haven't deviated from. And a lot of that was around things that I wouldn't share online. And I haven't, and I won't share a lot of the personal aspects of my life on the internet. I just won't do that. In sharing the struggles that I'm having and that I've had of recent times, it's felt personal, really personal. And I think it probably has nearly blurred the line, because for me, it has affected the way that I've been feeling. I would say that I was nearly edging on having a depressive episode because of just so many different factors. And I went to see my GP, we had a talk, I've seen my psychologist, everything's okay and everything's fine. But there's been a lot going on in the background of our lives. And for me, this whole thing of needing a revision surgery has felt in some way like I have failed. Not because I've gained weight, because I haven't, but I didn't want to need any more surgery. I wanted to be that person that just didn't need any more surgery and would just be able to go along and be fine. And I was pretty sure that if I just ignored it, I would be fine. And I've done that for years, literally for years. And now it's just come to that point where I can't ignore it anymore.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that the longer we ignore it, our body will eventually just go, you know what, slap.
Yeah.
And now you can't.
Silly idiot, stop it. And that is definitely what's happened for me personally, I guess, over the last little while. And during this last week, I have shared a bit more about that online, and it's caused some people to be frightened. And that is never, ever, ever something that I want to do. So I've really struggled with the idea of even having this chat, of even making this podcast, because I don't want people to be scared. But what I hope you can get from this is the fact that staying in touch with your team, relying on excellent medical advice, not old mate from the internet, seeing your dietitian, seeing your psychologist, being in touch with a great GP, having a really good surgeon and a great team around you is key for success in the long term.
Yeah.
Now, defining success, what does success mean? Well, success means so many different things to so many different people. But for me, success isn't difficult to define. Actually, it was just yesterday that there was a comment on one of my social media posts along the lines of how thin I am, but I've paid a terrible price. That was never my goal, ever my goal. My goal has always been and will always be to be around for my kids for as long as is physically, humanly possible, and to live a healthy, well life with the people that I love. That is success for me. That is the way that I define success. Doing the things that are in my heart to do, being able to live out the dreams that I have in my heart, being able to show myself love and compassion, being able to give back into my community, serving in the ways that I can serve, doing all of those things. That's how I define success. And I have not felt successful over the last little bit because of the physical limitations that I've had because of the bile acid malabsorption and also because of pain. So that sucks. That has sucked. And I know that that's not an upbeat thing to say, but what is an upbeat thing to say is that we don't just sit there and stay in that place. We actually get up, activate ourselves and do something about it.
Yeah, and that's so important. Even for me, you know, I never thought that I would be in a position where I have to have infusions for pain and all this sort of stuff because, you know, I was told that all the pain would go away if I lost weight. It was worse. But it was working through that and being able to live life regardless.
100%.
You know, I realise now, well, I'm starting to realise the strength that it took to do that. The more I talk to different doctors and professionals and tell them about my journey and that they all look and go, I've never heard of anyone getting off that amount of pain meds or being able to do that. And, you know, it's really been something that I had to work on though. It's not like this came easily.
But see, that, and I know with you, it is intrinsically linked to the backstory that we don't talk about. It's intrinsically linked back to our families. It's intrinsically linked back to just an indomitable spirit that refuses to lie down. Sorry, getting emotional.
I mean, I never thought that for a moment that we would be sitting here doing podcasts.
Me either.
The
Who
biggest
thought that?
bariatric support community in Australia. And yet here we are. And I've had people say to me, well, why are you still doing it? You're 11 years post-op. For me, it really did become a thing of helping other people through their journey because I didn't have that help. I had to find my own way.
I think, again, too, it's linked back to the things that we don't talk about. It's linked back to our families. It's linked back to the things that we still see, people that we love and that we're so connected with, suffering through on a daily basis. And it is a continual drive and a continual passion to see people living their best lives. And I'm determined that regardless of what comes, I will still be better off than what I was 100 kilos ago. Because 100 kilos ago, I was basically shut in. I couldn't live my life the way that I wanted to. There was so many limitations on me. I didn't like going out even for a coffee because usually I couldn't fit in the chairs. Or I was embarrassed because I knew I wouldn't be able to fit into a booth if there was a booth. I found it difficult to walk for long periods of time. My feet hurt on a daily basis. It was hard. I didn't have shoes with laces because I couldn't bend down to do them up. There are so many things about my life and about the quality of my life. Hey, I can wipe my ass. There are so many things that have changed. And do I regret it because now there's some complications? No, I don't. Would I get up on that table again and do it again? Yes, I would. Knowing everything that I know now, all of the different things, I would still jump up on that table in a heartbeat and say, give me a gastric bypass.
When you mentioned that about not fitting in a booth, it triggered a memory for me. And on the Sunshine Coast, there was a restaurant there, and you'd know the one I'm talking about, Tash. But we went there one night, and they only had booths, and I was like, sort of looking, going, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to fit in any of these. But it got even worse than that. They had one booth that had a semicircle cut into the table for the fat people to sit at.
Yeah.
And they directed me to that table. And that was when I started going, you know what, I'm not going out. I'm just going to stay home. There's nowhere that I can fit, And
I mean, it
was done as a joke.
Yeah.
But it's not funny.
It's not funny. There are so many things around that kind of thing that are not funny at all. And very, very triggering. You'll know this as well, Dame, that I actually struggle with the whole concept of thinness, like thin, and that being a goal, because I truly believe that health at all sizes is fine. Like, I did what I did and had the surgery that I had because my health was evaporating before my very eyes. For me, I mean, I've talked a lot about the fact that it was when I went up to, I'd finished my course and it was the graduation night and I couldn't fit into the gown. And that remains a very pivotal moment for me. Also, in the lead up to that, there'd been an issue that is like super embarrassing to talk about. I had a tear in my ass. And when you have to go and show that to the doctor, and the doctor is visibly just doesn't want to have to look at that, the humiliation, I really, for a long time, all I wanted was to be thin enough that if that happened again, that I wouldn't get that reaction. It was one of the most humiliating moments. And there's so many stories like that I've never talked about that made up little reasons that I've sort of tucked away into my heart that maybe one day, if I can be brave enough and I can wrap my head again around having surgery, maybe that won't happen. My quality of life was shit prior to my gastric bypass, and I have no regret that I went down the route of doing the surgery. I don't think that you can fully comprehend or understand what it feels like unless you're actually in a body that is starting to not be okay. And it's an extremely vulnerable and disarming sort of a situation to be in.
Yeah. And there's very few people that you can talk to that understand.
Yeah, that's right.
because the ones that do understand, they're going through their own battles.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find even with some psychologists and stuff, if they don't have specific training in those areas, even just most of us would understand this, that look that flashes across their eyes when you say something and you're talking about something, and they get this, it's just for a brief moment because they're trained not to react or what, but you see this flash across their eyes, and for me that just shuts me down.
Oh, for me, that with anybody shuts me down.
Yeah, I just
Even
I
still.
clam up, stop talking about it, because you've obviously hit a nerve that they're uncomfortable with. So it does sort of, I guess it sort of imprisons you in yourself.
Yeah.
Because
I think that's why it's important that we have these conversations as people that are years out from our surgery. The mental aspect of the bariatric experience and having been very big children, and for me having been big and small and all different sizes, the impact that it has on us mentally is the biggest challenge, I think.
I remember, and I know I've shared this story before, but I'd lost about 50 kilos, and we went to a family gathering, and I overheard family members saying, oh, well, Damo's not the fattest anymore. And clearly I wasn't supposed to hear that because I was walking out the door at the time and everyone sort of went quiet. But for me, it wasn't just hearing them say that. It took me back to all the previous interactions over the years going, so they were only being nice to me because I was married to Kim. And, these were people that I thought that, we were sort of friends, But for me, well, obviously not, because that's not how you treat friends. That's not how you think of friends. And, so it wasn't just what was said there. It was all the interactions previously.
They mount up.
Yeah.
Mount up.
And it cast a big shadow over those, even the happy memories, because that's what they thought.
I definitely look back on the periods in my life where I was bigger, and even in photos, I can see my sadness. And that is the reason why I have no regrets that I had the surgery. Because if you see a photo of me then with my children and you see a photo of me now with my children, I'm present now. In my eyes, I'm present. I'm not self-conscious, worried, frightened, thinking about the best way to stand, the best angle to be on, how to try to melt away. That right there, that is why I will never regret the fact that I went down a surgical route to help myself and to be able to live those years with my family. And I couldn't give a crap if people think that I cheated. I know the truth. I know the truth of how difficult this whole thing has been and how it continues to evolve, and it's an evolving space, and I accept that. But that is why. It is that reason, Damo. It is those memories. It's looking back over your life and seeing the change that being able to be in a body that serves you well and that you feel good in, the change that makes in a person, it changes your life.
Last week you shared a picture from your graduation, and you could see, well, for me, I knew the discomfort just by looking at that picture that you had.
That's because you know me.
And the thoughts that were going through your body, I could see it, that, here's a moment that should be being celebrated, and you just wanted to be anywhere but there.
Yeah, that's right. If you know me well, you can see it in my eyes. My eyes have always told stories, and you can just see it so plainly, how much I was loathing every moment of it, and I just wanted to melt into the floor. I wanted the floor to open up and swallow me. I did not want to be in that moment, but how different it is now.
And that's why I will always advocate for people to have access to things that work. And we know bariatric surgery works for people.
Yeah.
We know that it can give them more health, a better life, regardless of how many kilos someone loses. It's about the health that they gain from that and being able to go out and pursue their spending time with their kids or whatever it is. That's what this is about.
Yeah. And also, no one has the right to discredit somebody else's experience. And if you're considering bariatric metabolic surgery, be guided by the professional people who speak around your life into the health circumstances that you have going on. They're the best people to guide you. Every Tom, Dick, Harry person will have an opinion about you having bariatric surgery. People have a lot of opinions.
Opinions,
Like bum holes, armpits, like we definitely all have them. Whether or not they're relevant to your personal circumstances, well, only we can decide. But I'm just so aware of the life-changing power that bariatric metabolic surgery has that I'm so glad that I did it. I'm so glad, even though I'm looking at a fundoplication, even though I'm looking at candy cane syndrome surgery.
Sounds delicious.
It does sound delightful. But even though I'm looking at all of those things, they feel really small when I consider all of the photos that I have with my kids, all of the moments where I've been present and not self-conscious, all of the memories that I carry and that they carry, that no one can take away from me, that were only possible because of what I chose to do nearly 7 years ago.
Good chat.
Good chat, Damo. Good chat.
Thank you for joining us.
And let us know your experience. We would really love to know the life-changing things that you've done since you've had bariatric surgery. And maybe we could even share some. If you'd like to send them in, we'd love to read them out, because I think that it's really important that we share the power that comes from our lived experience. Love you guys.
Have a great week.